the way the culture and the programming has taught us, and the way a financial planner is trying to explain it to you, at least a good one, sometimes that's counterproductive. Where I don't think that's gonna work, Dre. Right? Everybody told me that I'm supposed to be working for the money, and when I get the money, I have succeeded. Right? I go to college so I can get a good job, so I can make good money. Hi, it's Dre Griggs of Obsidian Wisdom. Today we answer the question: why are so many people broke in the wealthiest of countries? When it comes to 70% of people living paycheck to paycheck, 60% of people are retiring broke every single day. And by retiring broke, the article said if you have 5,000 or less saved in retirement. Why are so many people struggling when there's so much wealth and so much abundance in the world, let alone in the United States of America? And I would say, well, let me tell you a story to explain it. Do you remember? And I don't know if they do it anymore. If they do, let me know in the comments. But I remember when I went to Florida State for my bachelor's degree, and I remember when they were giving out credit cards in the union. So that was just kind of where all the students hung out. And I remember being like, "What is this?" And they were like, "Oh, it's a credit card." And so I knew what a credit card was because my parents, we had gotten a credit card, and it was like a Capital One, and I could buy like a lunch on it every single month, and then I would pay the lunch off as soon as I got the bill. So that way I established credit so that I could build up credit. Because some people make the mistake of thinking that not having credit card debt is the same as having good credit, and it's not. Not having credit card debt sometimes is the same as having bad credit because you haven't proven that you're responsible enough to pay the money back. Well, we fast forward. So in college, I used the card, and I use it pretty liberally. Like I was just buying stuff, and then the first bill came, and I was like, "What am I supposed to do with this?" And they were like, "You're supposed to make a payment. You're supposed to pay back the credit card debt." And like most people, you just start paying the minimum payment because you're like, "Oh well, dang, I don't have all the money, so I'll just make the minimum payment, and I'll figure it out by next month." Well, next month comes and I haven't figured it out yet, so I make the minimum payment again, right? That's just all I could do. And as a result, you've seen them. The card will say, this payment will take you 3, 5 years to pay it off. What the system is designed to do, and why I do believe why so many people are broke, is twofold. One is the way your money is leveraged against you, most people don't leverage it for themselves. And so what I mean is if I was to go borrow money and I paid a certain interest rate, you guys know those loans are 5, 10, 15, 20 years of a consistent payment, and you pay a pretty nice amount of interest back. So they are leveraging our money against us. Then the bank can leverage the money and they can say, all right, I have $1 million set aside in my reserves. I can go give loans of $10 million, $100 million because I have the 1 million. So the bank can leverage our money, which creates more wealth, and then they can give it to other people who can then use that to create a business or different opportunities. Along the way, each of us has a role to play in this system. If you are someone who is borrowing money from the bank, then the bank is leveraging the debt against you so that they can fund other people who will leverage it to be able to make more money than they had. Because the system requires most of us to be in debt to maintain the working. Like, could you imagine, just for a second, if all of us were debt free? Could you imagine how many of us would just go into like the office one day and be like, deuces, I'm not messing with you today. I'm tired of you, because I've been in situations where I had the best situation ever. I love the people I work with. I love my boss. I love everybody. And then the boss was promoted and moved on somewhere else. And the new person came in and they were a complete jerk. They wanted to make their own name. And so they wanted to change everything that was working so that they could take credit for it. But it ended up really killing the morale and the vibe and the culture of that particular office. How many people are working because they have responsibilities that requires them to work? See, I believe the people, as far as the system itself, they know that. They know most of you would not put up with such foolishness unless you had some sort of debt to pay back. And so when you look at certain things, the price of housing, if you look at the cost of food, if you look at the cost of college, if you look at the cost of things in the system versus how much someone's income goes up each year, we're losing big. And I do believe that a part of it is to maintain a working class, that you have to have people working. At least now, I mean, there may be a day where AI, robots, and automation and globalization and everything just kind of puts everything. But currently, the system requires people to work. So how does it make sure that there's plenty of people willing to work? Debt. Debt is the only way to make sure that people have an incentive to work, even if they don't feel like working. So I believe that that is reason number one, is why, how are so many people broke in the wealthiest nation in the world? And then number two, and I talk about this all the time, I believe people are unhappy. I believe people are lacking an understanding of what really drives them. So for me, and if you listen to me, I talk about different core values that I have and the culture that I've built with my family and my company. So you guys will know that consistency is big for me. Consistency, honesty, freedom, they're all big for me. Wisdom is big for me. Family is huge for me. These are core values that I have. And as a result, I make decisions that are aligned with that core value. If I was to sacrifice any of my core values for a paycheck, at some point I'm going to regret that decision. And it's just another way that the system will keep us as employees, where we grow up and all we're told is get the money, get the money, get the money, and life will be great. So what do we end up doing? We end up sacrificing so much stuff that means like the world to us. We're like, okay, well, if I can get the money, so I'm going to sacrifice time with my family, because once I get the money, then I can spend more time with my family, right? Like, okay, all right. Or you'd be like, okay, I'm going to sacrifice my health, so that way when I have the money, I can go buy back my health. And you find, if you've ever pawned anything, right? I had like speakers in the back of my car, and they were too big when I was leaving college, and I had to take all my stuff home. And so I took it to the pawn shop, and they were like, oh yeah, we'll give you like, I don't know, like $20 for it, right? They talk you down and make it seem like it's garbage. And I knew that on eBay they were like $100, but that's how pawn shops are, right? They're going to give you a little bit, and then they're going to charge you a lot to get it back. That is how the system will work if you allow it to. So because most people are sacrificing the core values, they're unhappy in some part of their life. And so they try to get the money to buy back that happiness. And as scripture says, what benefit is it to gain the whole world if it costs you your soul? Most people are gaining so much, but it's costing so much more. And a lot of people don't understand that the things that you are selling, like your family and your time and like the trips and all the stuff and your health and your well-being, you're sacrificing all of your happiness and all of the experiences for the money, because in your mind you think you're going to buy back these experiences. But it's just like the pawn shop. They're giving you $20 and they're going to charge you $100 to get it back, and it just may be a little too expensive for you. I remember when you guys know my degrees are in economics, my bachelor's and master's. And I remember when I was working in the investment bank, they paid pretty nice. Like anybody who works in finance, you get paid pretty nice. The problem is there is a lot of restrictions on what you can do with your money and the outside business activities and a whole list of stuff. And it's because if you get paid that much money, the only way that they can make sure that you have to work there is by restricting your ability to allocate your money in a way that generates a passive income. So because you can't generate a passive income, you can only generate an active income. And I talk about the 7 income streams that we have. So if you can't invest in the stock market very readily, if you can't, buy like real estate or start a business, you can't do like dividend investing, like you just don't have as much freedom with what to do with your money, then it still means that you are required to work even though you have a lot of money in that system. And that end up taking a significant amount of your time back from you, to where a lot of people get burned out, and they get burned out relatively early, where you just are very tired. And I can show you pictures of me when I had the job, I had the money, but I was so tired. It was like hard for me to just keep my eyes open when I would watch my kids try to tell me about their day, or I'd help them with their homework. And I was eating unhealthy and I was gaining weight, and I would work from like setup to sundown. I'd take a laptop home and I would log in and I keep working, to where it was like, if you took the amount of time that I was working and divided it by the salary, I wasn't getting paid as much anymore as I thought I was. And so for most people, they're so unhappy that they end up spending the money trying to find the happiness. And if you watch TV, so I'll give you guys like a secret hack here. stop watching TV. I promise you, if you watch less TV, you'll be more happy, because if you watch the commercials, they make it seem like the one thing that you're missing is a car or the restaurant or the trip, like one of those things, right? Consumerism. And so we end up eventually believing it if you just watch anything long enough. And I always give the same argument, and I'll share it with you guys. If it wasn't true, right? If it wasn't true that based on what you watch, I could tell you something about your spending habits, then why does advertising work? Right? Like, why does advertising work? Why do they have more beer commercials on ESPN, more cruises on the Travel Channel? If you listen to, some news channel and the majority of it is negative, why do they sell gold on those channels? Because if you think the world's going to end, then you got to put your money in something. The gold is usually what they'll say. And so if you just look at advertising and the way it is designed and the fact that it makes trillions of dollars, you have to be able to recognize that the information that you absorb on a regular basis impacts the way you think, which impacts the decisions that you make. That if you watch a sports channel, then you'll see BW3's commercials where they'll talk about wings and they'll talk about beer and all this other stuff, because that's what people are thinking about. That's the way their mind is being molded. And so if you don't want to be forced or at least coerced and manipulated into spending your money on things that don't actually make you happy, the first thing you have to do is take back your mind. You have to spend more time with yourself, not absorbing external stimuli. And then as you get to reintroduce yourself to yourself, then you can find what your core values are, the things that drive you, the things that you know will make you miserable if you sacrifice any one of them. Most people are unhappy because they have been told that as long as you get the money, then you'll be happy. And so then everybody's like, okay, well, if I need the money to be happy, then any job is fine. I don't need to read the fine print. I don't need to see what the outside business activity is. I don't need to see any of that, because if I have the money, then I'll be happy. And that lie is the reason that the majority of people end up broke when they retire, because they spend all their money trying to figure out what will drive the happiness meter up a little bit more. They take the trips, they do the things with the family, they buy the tutors, they do all this stuff, and yet they still feel empty. The only way someone is going to be able to stick long term with any financial plan I put together is they have to love the life that they have so that they can maintain a long term plan. It would be no different than if you did a crash diet. Sure, you'll lose a bunch of pounds. You can go get liposuction and lose 100 pounds, and then you could say, all right, I'm good. But we both know what will happen in a few years. You're going to have the weight back, and you're going to have the weight back because you haven't changed any of the thought processes that put you in the situation in the first place. That is the same when it comes to you and your money. As long as you believe spending money is going to drive your happiness, then there's no way that you're going to be able to invest the money in your future self, which is partially why a lot of people, when they retire, they're not 100% sure what to do with their time. They spend their life getting the money, and when you retire, you have all the time, and you don't actually have to work for the money if you did it right. And they're just kind of lost. A lot of people don't know what to do when they have their own time. They don't really know what makes them happy, what drives them, what brings that smile to their face. I'm very fortunate and very thankful that I know being an educator brings me joy, right? Teaching you guys, I teach high school economics. I love teaching people. And the beauty is I don't have to work for the money. The financial planning and the opportunities and the wealth that I create for families, that's all fine and dandy. And yeah, I charge for it, right? I'm providing a value. But the joy that I have and the energy and the drive that it gives me when, even when I was teaching in a student and I would see them at like a grocery store, and they'd be like, oh, hey, Mr. Griggs, what's up? How are you? I made it. I have one that I went to a high school football game, and one of the kids was telling me that, she was in honors classes, and she remembers when I would hop around the classroom teaching her. And I was like, all right, that means it was worth it, right? Because it takes a lot to get people to realize that you're in it with them, that you're trying to get them to do what's best for them. And it's sort of like that with financial planning, right? Like the way the culture and the programming has taught us, and the way a financial planner is trying to explain it to you, at least a good one, sometimes that's counterproductive, where I don't think that's gonna work, Dre, right? Everybody told me that I'm supposed to be working for the money, and when I get the money, I have succeeded. Right? I go to college so I can get a good job so I can make good money. And you'd be like, yeah, like that's true in a lot of ways. It opens up opportunities for you. But what you do with your time drives the happiness. And if I can get you to be content in all aspects of your life, then we can have the fun. Content just means I love my life. I love the people in my life. I love what I do with my time each day. And I get to enjoy a lot of things. You may not get to enjoy everything, and we'll work towards that, but I get to enjoy a lot of things. See, the thing about financial planning, I'm not going to tell you that you can't take the trip. I'm just going to say, let's allocate the money towards the trip so you don't have to put it on a credit card that you have to pay back over 10 years, which is then tying up your cash flow for 10 years, which you could have been investing that money. And it's like literally making your trip that was like a $2,000 trip cost now like $6,000 to $8,000. Or you could have just given me 12 months, allocated the money, and then taken the trip and still have your freedom, still create the wonderful experiences, still enjoy yourself. That's the idea. That's why the majority of people, in a nutshell, are living paycheck to paycheck, because they believe that once they have the money, they just do what they want and then they're happy. But the truth is, the experiences that you could create, even when you don't have the money, can make you happy today. And then while you're happy today, I can implement a long-term plan that will have you fabulously wealthy, but unlimitedly happy tomorrow. If you found value in this video, I simply ask that you like and subscribe so you can continue receiving financial advice on how to unlock generational wealth through strategic retirement planning. Until next time, Wisdomites, remember, wisdom is asking the right questions to allow yourself to get the right answers. Continue blessings.